Today on the news and why it matters, conflicting polls on the 2020 race, and also one of our favorites drops out of the Democratic presidential nomination race. Oh, shed a tear. Okay, we're done now. Got a lot coming up. It starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Happy Monday. I am Sara Gonzalez. Today, joined by Mr. Cliff Maloney. Thank you so much for being back here. You are with Young Americans for Liberty.
Absolutely.
President of Young Americans for Liberty. Thanks for being here. And we've got Rob Eno, Blaze Media critic. Thanks for being back, Rob.
Thanks for having me on.
We're doing it with three today, guys. We're doing it live. We are doing it live. Got a lot to get into. First, we want to thank our sponsor, American Financing. So if you are, maybe you're looking for a refi, maybe you're shopping for a new home because you've realized, hey, these interest rates are really good right now, and I don't know how much longer that's going to last. Yeah, you're smart about that one. You got to go to American Financing, though, if you want to do business with a financing company who is actually going to do what is right for you and your family, who's going to put you in the best solution for you and your family. There are a lot of different financial institutions out there. A lot of these people that work for these institutions, they work on a commission-based structure. So they're looking at your solution and they're like, okay, what gets me the biggest kickback from this bank? Yeah, that's not who you want to do business with. You want to do business with American Financing. They are salary-based professionals, not commission-based. They're truly in it to get you the best fit possible for your family, and they want to put you in something reasonable that's going to work. You can go to AmericanFinancing.net to talk to one of their professionals, or you can call 800-906-2440. That is AmericanFinancing.net. Got a couple of polls to get into. I know there are two key polls that have come out today. They both conflict one another. Rob Eno says that he has a very simple answer for that. But let's bring up first the New York Times Siena College poll that was released just this morning. It does appear that Democrats may be in trouble in some key battleground states. It has how Trump fares among likely voters. So in Michigan, Trump is up 4 for Warren. And now with Sanders, Sanders is up 3, Biden is up 1. In Pennsylvania, Trump is up against Sanders and Warren by 1 and 2 respectively. Wisconsin, Biden's leading in a lot of these, except North Carolina. Trump is up against Biden, Sanders, and Warren. And let's see, Florida, Biden is up 2. Sanders is down 2. Elizabeth Warren is down 4 against Trump. Cliff, what are your thoughts on this?
You know, looking at this poll, what fascinated me was you have a situation where last cycle, 2016, I mean, you're talking about $1 billion spent against the president, and that's a generous range. It could have been as high as $2 billion when you talk about negative campaigning. But all three of these individuals, sure, Biden was the vice president, but you look at Bernie and you look at Elizabeth Warren, I mean, for the most part, they really have not been tested yet when it comes to hard dollars being spent to paint them a certain way. Regardless of ideology, money being spent to paint you as, hey, you should not like this person. If I'm either of those, any of the three camps, I'm very worried right now that the president is polling so well against them when no money has been spent to paint them in a negative light.
That's a really great point. Rob, do you agree?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And the other thing is, this again is a battleground poll, and the other poll we're going to talk about is a national poll. And when you look at the state-by-state poll, what this shows is basically there's been no movement of Trump versus generic Dem, and these aren't even generic Dems. These are three well-known Dems. There's been no movement between 2016 and today. If you look at the internals of the poll, which I saw Nate Cohn, who is the polling analyst for the New York Times, was talking about, if you look at white college-educated people and you look across the line, it's almost exactly the same. If you look at white, no college, it's almost all the internals of the poll, all the crosstabs are almost exactly the same as they were at the end of the 2016 election. And the big mistake that the media made in 2016 was they focused on the national polling and not the state-by-state battleground polls. Those state-by-state battleground polls showed movement towards Trump.
Now, I will say among likely voters, this same poll, the New York Times Siena College poll, among likely voters, The data is slightly more favorable for Trump. It shows him leading Warren by 3 points, up 1 point against Sanders, and then down 1 point versus Biden in the same states. I'm not sure, I don't have on here what the margin of error is.
Well, one comment I'd make is, you look at these different candidates and you look at what they're trying to do. What is their message? We talk about since 2016, if impeachment is the message, and I don't want to jump to our next topic, but if impeachment's the message, which we've seen, like when you think Joe Biden, what is his campaign message, right? If you are a average, let's say, swing state voter, and you think Joe Biden, you're not sitting there thinking, oh yeah, his message is jobs, or his message is X, Y, or Z. His message is the same as Bernie's, which is the same as Elizabeth Warren's, which is we've got to impeach the president. And I think Democrats are missing the boat on this. Now, look, to the wonks and to the talking heads in the mainstream media, they're in the loop and they're in the weeds. And sure, Elizabeth Warren's got a million different proposals. But to everyday voters, they're not getting that message. And I think that people underestimate the value of running and trying to inspire voters. I mean, you look at what Obama did back in 08 and 12, you look at what Trump did, you're not seeing any type of national message from any of the leading contenders running for the Democrat nomination.
Do you wonder if it might be that they are worried about spreading their message because the message that they would spread if they were to say, hey, this is my proposal, is just everyone gets free stuff and your taxes are going to go up a ton. You know what I mean? It's like, how does that... I feel like they might be in a quandary because how does that sell to the American people, when they've already got a great economy? We've got low unemployment, we've got record unemployment numbers for minorities especially. We've got things going so well right now. It's hard to run on these platforms that they are advocating for.
And where's the wedge issue, right? If you're a Democrat strategist, right, let's take off our belief in the Constitution for a minute and say we're a Democrat strategist. What do you tell these candidates? Because you're right, record low unemployment, record low for Black America, Asian Americans. I mean, the economy is roaring. Now, I'd like us to cut some of the spending, and I've got my critiques. Yes. But if you are running a national campaign right now against President Trump and against kind of the status quo in America, it is difficult to find that wedge issue. And I think they have latched onto impeachment because they don't have another issue. What is it that they can dive in on? I mean, even some of the major issues the left has tried to own, like criminal justice reform. President Trump has swiped one from under them, passing the First Step Act. So I think if I'm a Democrat right now, I understand why they're doing it, but they've got to dig a little deeper to find a wedge issue that Americans actually care about.
And to your point, in the article in the New York Times, they interviewed some of the people that did the poll, and there was a young woman that was basically, Warren is crazy. Like that was what she said. Like these policies, to your point, if they ran on these policies, they would be down even further. And to your point, the 2008 and 2016 elections were basically the same. They were outsiders who said they were going to go and bring down the status quo. Trump has kind of done it, and now they want to impeach him for it. Obama didn't do it. He got all in with the deep state, with the administrative state, because that's who he really was. He lied about who he was to get elected, that he would go in and change it, but he did it. And, to your point on impeachment, I don't think it's going to work. I mean, look at the national polls that they're talking about with impeachment, right? They're talking about, 49% want to impeach it, 51 or less than that don't want to impeach. Again, these are of like adults, not registered voters, not people that are actually going to decide the election. Nancy Pelosi this weekend went on record saying that she doesn't know what the Democratic candidates are doing. It's because she knew that polling like this exists. If the election were held today, Donald Trump would get another 4 years and people's heads would explode.
Let me give you one quick note. I was in an Uber in Florida, northern Florida. Florida matters, especially coming into 2020.
Right,
I had a 40-year-old female independent Uber driver tell me, and I asked her, just anecdotally, I said, what are your thoughts currently? Because she asked what I do. And she said, I'll tell you this. She says, I'm not a huge Trump fan, but what they're doing to him with this impeachment, I'm going to have to support him because nobody should have to go through that process. And it's just this unfair bashing when he's trying to do good things. And I mean, coming from an independent in Florida, that should tell you something.
That's incredible. Well, the conflicting poll that we referenced earlier was, of course, it was a national poll, as Rob pointed out. It was a Fox News poll, of all things, released yesterday that had his approval rating, Trump's approval rating, at 42%, with 57% of registered voters disapproving of his job performance. And somehow they threw Hillary Clinton's name in there, which, I mean, Fox, come on. What are you doing to us right now? Why are you trying to convince her to run? Okay, I get it. Ratings. All right, I got it. But let's see. Trump is behind all of the top-tier Democrats in this poll. He is behind Joe Biden, 51 to 39. He's behind Warren, 46 to 41. He's behind Sanders, 49 to 41. And then Hillary Clinton, 43 to 41. Why did they throw her name in there, Cliff? Just for fun?
I think
just to torture us?
I think you'd be surprised that Hillary Clinton, the Clinton family, I mean, walking away from power, I'm not going to sit here and say I do expect her to get in, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So I think, Fox is probably right to ask the question. But just to go back to the, talking about a national poll versus state-based polls, none of these folks have had the type of money spent against them. And I'm telling you that, they can look at the polling early on. They made this mistake in 2016. Once the money is spent, once voters are actually paying attention or forced to pay attention because $1 billion will be spent against whoever the Democrat nominee is to paint them. And they're going to paint, they're going to spend money too to paint themselves. But when that money is spent, that to me is when you're actually going to see the movement and see if the American people want to support them.
Rob, you say throw this poll out, doesn't matter.
Throw this poll out, but I will tell you that Hillary Clinton was up by those numbers in 2016, and she won the popular vote, and she did not win the election because we're a republic with an electoral college. And you need to do the state-by-state polls. I think Hillary, I think I said it on Friday, but if Hillary wants to get in, she's got 11 days now to register, pay the $100 to register in New Hampshire. So if Hillary is going to get in, I think we know by November 15th. But to your point, and just to hammer your point home, you're talking about the $1 billion hasn't been spent. In media, in earned media alone, trillions of dollars, have been spent against Donald Trump over the past 3 years. It's been every day. It's been Groundhog Day. This is the day we're going to get Donald Trump. And then they don't get it. So, I mean, Donald Trump's negatives are pretty much as low as you're going to get them. There's nowhere else to go.
So our good friend of the program, Robert Francis O'Rourke, he has sadly announced in the middle of our broadcast on Friday, actually, of course, of all times, he has sadly announced that he will be dropping out of the presidential race. Cliff, how hard did you cry when you heard this news?
Working with younger Americans, people thought, people have to be upset. Americans don't want to have their guns bought back. I think gun grabbers, as much as the media and as much as they're portrayed as kind of, hey, a mainstream idea, most people believe in the right to self-defense. They believe in the Second Amendment. And so I think this is for me, it's a reassuring moment. Sometimes I do have to worry, especially working with younger people. You see some of these polls and you see some of the ways they're trending. But this was a good gut check of like, you know what, the American spirit of self-defense and really protecting that right. I think his campaign kind of floundering reassured me that we have hope and we do still respect the Constitution. I
completely agree, and I love your optimism. Rob, what are your thoughts?
Bob Frank was a media creation from the beginning. In Massachusetts, we used to have a thing, we called it the FUMU principle. I'm going to say mess up, move up. You can see what the F is for. And that was basically what he did, right? I mean, he lost to Ted Cruz. Everybody thought he was going to win because that was the year, like next year's the year that Texas is going to go blue again.
Well, remember when Wendy Davis ran too.
Right, it was going to go blue.
It had to go blue.
Yeah,
it's going to go blue. It's going to go blue.
I will say I was not comfortable with how close he got.
Right. If it's because I moved here and it goes blue, you can, blame me. It'll all be me. But, he had no campaign. He had nothing. He doesn't stand for anything that Americans stand for. He is the pretty boy in the media elites, that Vanity Fair, like gushing over him article. People who live on the Northeast coast and the Southwest, the extreme Southwest coast of the United States, think that Beto was the perfect candidate. I said his name. Bob Frank was the perfect candidate. And they don't understand, just like they don't when they fly across the country. And I talked about that tweet from some idiot in New York last week, didn't know why there were patchworks on the ground in Iowa. They don't know what this country is about. So they think, oh, Beto's like the guy that we would vote for. So, of course, everybody has to love him.
Who likes skateboards outside of Whataburger and stuff, bruh? Robert Francis said, my service to the country will not be as a candidate or as the nominee. Acknowledging this now is in the best interests of those in the campaign. It is in the best interests of this party as we seek to unify around a nominee, and it is in the best interests of the country. I could not agree with that last sentiment anymore. So while we go to break, please enjoy this tribute, RIP to Robert Francis's campaign. Back in a minute.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore. So I'm here at the dentist, and we're going to continue our series on the people of the border.
Before we get back into the conversation, we want to thank our sponsor, realestateagentsitrust.com. So earlier in the program, I told you about American Financing, where you want to go if you need a home loan. Okay. So realestateagentsitrust.com is who you want to use when you are looking to buy or sell that home. So, you know, everyone and their mom seems like these days says, oh, I'm a real estate agent. Yeah, I dabble in it. I have my license. I kind of do it part-time for friends and family. I can totally hook you up. That's not what you want to do. It's just the biggest investment you're ever going to make in your life, no pressure or anything. You want to make sure that you are dealing with someone who really knows the area, who does this full time, and more importantly, who shares your values, especially if you're moving somewhere cross country. You're not going to know where's the right neighborhood for my children to grow up in. You know, I don't want to live next to a drug dealer. These are all things that realestateagentsitrust.com can help you find. It's very easy. You go to the website, you type in your information and your zip code. They have someone call you, usually within minutes. My husband and I just used this recently. He called us within 10 minutes, and this was at 8 o'clock at night. I don't know when these people don't work, but lucky for you, they're always working. Go to realestateagentsitrust.com if you are looking to buy or sell your home. So last segment, we talked about all of the candidates basically running on impeachment, right? They don't want to talk about their platforms, but I think you guys would probably agree the only thing that they really are willing to talk about, regardless of whether or not they're telling the truth, is their Medicare for All plans.
Right.
Who goes the furthest, who eliminates private insurance and who doesn't. Elizabeth Warren has been hammered pretty hard for her Medicare for All plan. Just last week, I know we covered this Friday, but just last week, they finally announced it's just another $52 trillion. But just the $52 trillion, not that big of a deal. Don't worry. Oh, also, by the way, we're also going to lose 2 million jobs from all of these displaced health insurance workers. But again, no big deal. It's just the 2 million jobs. She was asked about these health insurance workers, all of these people who would lose their jobs over her Medicare for All plan. And here is what she had to say. Watch.
The people who work in private insurance and all the people even here in Des Moines who work in private health insurance, where do they go and work when private insurance is eliminated?
So if you've had a chance to read the plan, you'll see no one gets left behind. Some of the people currently working in health insurance will work in other parts of insurance, in life insurance and auto insurance and car insurance. Some will work for Medicaid. And there is a 5-year transition support for everyone. Because what this is about is how we strengthen America's middle class and how we make sure that in transitions, no one gets left behind. It's right there in the plan, and it's fully paid for.
Okay. As a health insurance broker myself, I really think my head just exploded. Am I still here? Am I still alive right now? Did my head just explode?
Apartment renters insurance at $125 a year.
I mean,
and make a living. You'll be fine.
If this isn't a prime example of the fact that the people who are creating and making our policies have absolutely no frickin' clue about the industries that they are creating regulations and policies for. No, Elizabeth Warren, you can't go and sell auto insurance with a life and health license, okay? It's not the same thing at all. At all. Idiot. Cliff, your thoughts?
I think it's Fantasyland. This is something that I continue to try to ask. I mean, I think the media actually now, because so many people put the pressure on to ask her, how are you going to pay for this? Over $50 trillion. At the end of the clip, she says, oh, and it's all paid for. She keeps skipping over that. And you cannot get in these situations where Democrats are promising the world, and to them it is just they don't live in the world of realism. And these programs have ramifications. Like we said, 2 million people losing jobs. Now listen, I'm all for the market working itself out, but not because government got involved and forced us all to pay higher taxes, which we will have to pay for over 50. I mean, it's so not within the realm of possibility. It's almost frustrating to talk about. And my question is, does she scale it back? If she gets the nomination, because I don't think she does. I think she's all in, Medicare for all, let's just spend $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there, who cares? But that's what's interesting to me, is to see them just continue to pull the party to the left as far as they can. 50, I mean, that is a big number.
Well, and we talked about, you touched on spending earlier, and how we've got some things to do with that, because obviously we need to rein it in. There's no party right now who is interested in reining in spending. But I feel like we've gotten to the point in America where the deficit is so high, our debt is so high. It's like it's just this imaginary number that doesn't mean anything and that has no ramifications anymore to the average American. Do you think that's true, Rob?
No, I absolutely think that's true. It's ridiculously high. It's numbers that nobody can wrap their heads around. The left will tell you, and this will make Cliff's head explode. We can just print more money, right? I mean, just print more money. But the part of that clip that I caught right at the end, she basically talked about an entitlement program on top of the entitlement program that for 5 years she'll take care of the people that she fires. And
then make them transition into a government Medicare for all job.
Right. Exactly.
Or just sell car
that was the part that was like, that was crazy. And,
so
Donald Trump wanted to change foreign policy.
So, Cliff, I do want to get your thoughts on, let's say, okay, so we know that the way that she's proposing she's going to pay for this is not going to happen, meaning, no, a wealth tax isn't going to pay for all of what you're trying to do, Lizzie. But let's pretend for a second that it was. What about the fact that it's not constitutional, that wealth tax? How do it's like the Americans aren't even concerned with the fact that she's proposing something that really doesn't seem to be constitutional, even if the math were to work out.
Yeah, well, sadly, I think the Constitution is, kind of seen as a suggestion map rather than the law of the land as we'd like it to be, especially to the Democrats. But with the numbers here, I mean, everyone is numb to debt. That's a major problem in this country, is we don't even talk about it. I mean, you say printing the money, you are going to get me frustrated. but it's insane that we are at a point where I truly do believe that the biggest threat to the country is the debt. But it's so hard. It's so hard. Pollsters, fundraisers, when it comes to votes, it's such a tough, in the weeds concept to talk to people about spending and to talk to them about debt. But eventually that impacts those, especially those on fixed incomes. You're talking about those that are older, retired folks, people that are on welfare or some sort of fixed income. We can talk about it in a wonky way, but those are the people, this spending, this $50 trillion that she's trying to put forward, it's not going to hurt the richest Americans. It'll bring the quality down for everybody. It's going to hurt those at the bottom of the totem pole, because it's going to make it so that their dollar's worthless. And that's the most frustrating part.
All right, back in a minute. Constitution. Before we go into overtime, don't forget, if you have not yet subscribed and rated our audio podcast, we'd like to ask you to do that. It helps us move up in the rankings. More people actually get to see this show, know that it's around, and obviously become major super fans, because we here at The News and Why It Matters are really awesome and also very, very humble. Also, don't forget, Glenn is, as we speak, they're all working on this third Ukraine special. You don't want to miss it. I hope you caught the first and second ones. If you didn't, they are available on BlazeTV.com. Get you an annual subscription. Save $10 if you use promo code NEWS, and then you'll be all set and good to go for his third special. You're not going to want to miss it, and you're also not going to hear it from the mainstream media. Overtime starts next. Don't miss it.